Most I built X with AI videos end with look how fast it was. This one ended with a working app in 75 minutes. But along the way, I found 4 things about Antigravity that aren't in any review I've seen, and one of them is a security issue. This is ArtleMaks Lab, honest software reviews, no hype. Welcome to a new series. Same app, 4 tools. Same build, 4 AI coding tools, head-to-head over 4 videos. Today, part 1, Antigravity. The build is a YouTube comment moderator. Pulls 50 comments from a video, lets me approve, hide, or flag them, persist to local storage, live search, filter, and one AI feature, summarize the themes across visible comments. Read comments, read video. I pointed it at a recent Linus Tech Tips upload. For fairness across the series, I'm using Antigravity's top-tier model, Gemini 3.1 Pro on high. Every tool in this series gets its best model and its default workflow. Antigravity's recommended mode is review-driven development. That's how the tool is designed to be used, so that's how I'm testing it. Then I fed it the spec. 7 discrete prompts, step by step, no mega prompt, no one shot. The kind of build a developer actually does in real life. The early steps were fast. UI scaffolded in under a minute. By step 2, wiring up the YouTube API, that's where I hit my first problem. I pasted the video ID with a typo. Specifically, I grabbed the URL from YouTube's Share at this moment feature, which appends t equals and a timestamp. The 11-character video ID had garbage on the end. That's a typo any developer could make. The app failed to load twice, and then, without telling me, Antigravity quietly added a sanitiser function that stripped my input down to 11 characters and used what was left. The app worked, but I didn't know how. I only caught it during testing. I changed the video ID in my config to something deliberately invalid, added random characters, expected an error. The app loaded normally. That looked wrong, but it wasn't a bug. It was the sanitiser from earlier still running, still stripping my input silently, still using whatever 11 characters it could extract. When I pushed back on this, the response was excellent. Antigravity admitted what it had done, articulated the principle it had violated. Do not mutate data behind the developer's back, and offered 3 concrete improvements. Raise these decisions before making them, fail loudly by default, or log when sanitization happens. And to its credit, it didn't just talk. When I asked it to keep the sanitiser but make it visible, it added a console warning that fires every time the function actually mutates input. That fix is in the production code. Promise kept. That's a strong recovery, but the recovery only happens when you push, and it turned out this wasn't the only quiet decision. Step 6 was the AI summary feature. Antigravity chose Gemini for the LLM call. Defensible, given it's a Google product. But the model it picked, Gemini 1.5 Flash, doesn't exist at that name anymore. The error came back twice. Antigravity tried it, failed, tried again, failed again. On the 3rd attempt, it hot swapped to a current Gemini model, and the call finally worked. Total elapsed about 2 minutes of confusion. Not a critical failure, but interesting. This is the same family of models Antigravity is built on top of, and it didn't know its own model lineup was out of date. If you're using this tool for production, that's the kind of thing you'd want to know about. While Antigravity was debugging the video ID issue, it added a console log to show me the URL it was actually fetching from. Reasonable debugging move. The log printed the constructed URL, with the YouTube API key in the query string, my key in plain text, written every time the page loaded. Now, this was local development, and these are server-side logs, not browser visible. The immediate exposure is contained, the key's been rotated and revoked since. But 2 things matter here. First, that the same pattern shipped to production would write your API key into every server log file and every error tracking system. Second, and the part that really bothered me, Antigravity never removed the debug logs after the bug was fixed. 3 console log statements sitting in the production code, leaking the key on every request. That's the part a senior reviewer would catch instantly. The same pattern as the silent sanitiser, defensive or debugging code added in direct response to a real problem. No flag for the implications, no cleanup after. Each instance is technically defensible, the pattern is the finding. While I was reviewing the code, I also noticed it renders comment text using React's dangerously set inner HTML without sanitization. YouTube's API generally escapes that content server side, so it's not actively exploitable, but it's a real XSS surface area in code that trusts an external API is escaping. That's another thing that code review should catch. A senior developer reviewing this code would flag both A junior developer using Antigravity to learn probably wouldn't. For the stretch, I asked Antigravity to build a spam detection feature, hybrid scoring, regex patterns plus an LLM, weight score, auto hide above 80. This is where Antigravity really impressed me. When I challenged its proposed weighing, it didn't defend it, it re-reasoned the problem from scratch. It explained why averaging 2 confidence signals is dangerous, proposed mod.max instead, and named the exact worst-case failure mode it wanted to avoid. Direct quote, "A genuine fine leaves a high-effort comment using slightly too many emojis, and the system auto-hides it." Then it built the system. On first test, the system auto-hid 2 comments. One was a viewer's opinion about the LTT build budget. The other was someone laughing at a joke with multiple emojis. That exact failure mode it had named. The debugging that followed was thorough. Antigravity wrote a test script, dug into the actual scores, and identified the case, and the cause wasn't the regex. The regex had scored both comments 0. The LLM had hallucinated spam signals where none existed. Then it patched the fix, added explicit rules to the LLM prompt. Negative opinions aren't spam, emojis aren't spam. For those 2 comments, it worked. But the architectural problem wasn't addressed. The max combiner trusts the LLM and the regex equally, even though one of them is probabilistic and prone to hallucination. Every new false positive becomes a new rule in the prompt. The right fix was to reconsider the design. Antigravity treated it as a prompt engineering problem when it was actually a design problem. So, would I use Antigravity again? For fast scaffolding, yes. The server component choice on the API integration was genuinely senior level. The hydration handling, the toggle UX, the follow through on the sanitiser logging, all good. The reasoning when prompted was excellent. By the end of 75 minutes, I had a working app with hybrid spam detection that mostly does what it should. But across one build session, I found 4 things worth knowing: a silent sanitizer, an outdated model assumption, 3 debug logs left in production code exposing an API key, plus a cross-site scripting surface area the code review code. A symptom patch fix on a design problem. Each one was technically defensible in isolation. The pattern is the finding. Antigravity reasons well when you challenge it. Its default behavior is to fix quickly and keep moving, leaving the cleanup, the disclosure, and the architectural questions for someone else. If you use this tool, you need to be the one watching for the quiet decisions. They don't surface unless you go looking. Antigravity, fast, capable, worth using, worth code reviewing. Next time, same build, same spec, same 50 comments, different tool. Cursor versus the comment moderator. Does it design better? Reason as well? Make fewer silent decisions? Subscribe so you don't miss part 2. And in the comments, if you've used Antigravity for real work, did you notice these patterns too? This is ArtleMaks Lab. See you next week.